Brent Barry, who played the previous 5 years with the Sonics and wanted to have a chance to play for a championship club, and his team's still alive, and the Sonics in the playoffs for the first time in 3 years win the opening tip.
It's going to be interesting, Dick, to see just how the second-year pro Luke Ridnour handles this pressure of being in the second round.
You're right, and the former Spur Antonio Daniels backs him up at point guard and has played some big minutes. 8 on the shot clock, and Parker guarding Ridnour. And here is Rashard Lewis, the tough matchup, missing the first shot. James fighting for the loose ball, and it comes into the hands of Brent Barry. Barry guarded by Allen, and James picking up Duncan at the top, who goes to the low post. Parker driving in, basket counts and a foul, and the very quick Tony Parker gives the Spurs the lead.
See, that's the difference in Luke Ridnour and Tony Parker. Tony Parker is not only trying to make plays, as you can see right here, he's attacking the basket, and that makes it far more difficult for Ridnour to guard him. Ridnour more so is a setup guard, which makes it a lot easier to put pressure on him.
Foul was on Ridnour, and Tony Parker with the three-point play. He averaged 21 points a game against the Sonics in the 4 games.
I think Luke really has to look to score some, Rex. He just can't go from left to right because it's easy to apply pressure to him.
Want to make Tony Parker play some defense also.
And Rashard Lewis is going to make the Spurs play defense, something they do well. So Rashard Lewis.
Well, Rashard Lewis seemed to have had some concern the last session of getting the ball. He's doing the right thing there. You got to go get the ball, and he also has to attack.
He was double teamed predominantly in that Sacramento series. 7 on the shot clock, and there's Parker out to Bowen. Bowen firing a 3, front rim, and Nazir Muhammad, who has now become a fixture as the starting center for that very reason. Offensive rebounding, and it enables Parker to slide in for the layup.
All because of Nazir Muhammad, and you can't underestimate what a guy like Mr. Muhammad does for the Spurs. Coming over in a trade from New York earlier in the season, he's been huge, and he gets his team an extra bucket just because he gets an offensive board.
Ray Allen with his first shot missing, and the rebound taken down by Tim Duncan. So it's a 5-2 Spurs lead early on. Spurs lost the first game of the last series at home to the Nuggets, and getting inside again is Parker. So how is Seattle letting Parker get inside for those layups?
Well, I think he has a run one-track mind. He's trying to exploit Luke's inexperience. He's not even trying to make plays right now. If some help doesn't come, Luke's going to have some problems here.
Parker has scored all 7 Spurs points. And Nazir Muhammad gets a piece of Rashard Lewis's shot, and now on the outlet pass, the ball knocked away, and it's last touch by the Spurs, says Derek Stafford, so the Sonics will get it back.
Well, it's good transition defense, but what Tony Parker is doing right now is what you would expect him to do. He's trying to take the heart of this young point guard for the Seattle Supersonics, Luke Ridnour.
And Greg Popovich said that what the Spurs have to do defensively is get back and watch the three-point line, because that's where Seattle can really do big-time damage. Allen can do damage everywhere, misses another shot, and there's the ball handler, Duncan, over to Brent Barry, lays it in, and it's a 9-2 start, and a timeout coming up for Nate McMillan and the Sonics.
See, and that's where there's an advantage, because Tim Duncan is very capable of blowing out, and then you don't need the guards to come back to get the ball from him. You know, looking at this, he gets it, and this is a blowout. He just gets it so the guards can catch the ball deeper down the court, and that puts far more pressure on Seattle.
Right away, when I first came in San Antonio, I'm 19 years old, you know, he put me right in the starting 5 and played with David Robinson, and then Timmy. It was kind of an honor for me, and I just was ready for the challenge, you know, and I've improved, you know, each year and try to play better each game, and you know, in the playoffs, that's when you see your character, you know, that's when the great players become, and that's why I love to perform during the playoffs.
And Tony Parker has been a sometimes whipping boy for Coach Greg Popovich, who sometimes forgets he's only 22 years old, and told us before the game, look, I've given up the fact, forget about point guard, this guy is a shooting guard, and I'll take what he gives us, as Luke Ridnour hits the field goal for the Sonics.
Well, Tony Parker just took a shot in the chops from big Jerome James at the top of the key, and the Sonics got to do something to get themselves going.
And usually the point guard is the whipping boy of the coach, because he's such an extension of the coach.
Ball knocked away by the Sonics, so the Spurs will keep possession. 9-4 early start. Greg Popovich, who doesn't overcoach in this league, there's no question about it, sometimes calls a timeout, tells him that Tim Duncan hasn't handled the ball in a while and they know what to do.
We've got a couple of guys that really test his patience at times in Parker and Ginobili, but he's done a great job of, like you said, Dick, not overcoaching these guys, letting them play and learning that these kids are going to grow up and learn to be leaders in this league.
First shot taken by Duncan. And there is a three-point attempt by Rashard Lewis, and we'll see a lot of those because the Sonics trailed only the Phoenix Suns in three-point baskets. And David Jones checking with Derek Stafford, and it is going to be an offensive foul called against Bruce Bowen. Bowen picking up the first foul as you see the early shooting favoring the Spurs.
And obviously, Seattle's going to take outside shots because that's where their strength, and they shoot the ball. But if they're not going in, you're going to get the Spurs counter-breaking and getting down very quickly. So they better practice their defense and backpedaling.
And the push-off against the Sonics and Ray Allen. And, Allen and Bowen go like each other and have had some tough times here. And there they're going to call Allen on the push-off. This is the first chapter in this rivalry in the series.
That's a crazy call right there. That's a no call to me, but Bruce Bowen is a guy that gets under your skin, and that's what he's out there for. And Ray Allen right away finding out this is not the Sacramento Kings. He'd have had 15 points by now in that series.
Double team on Duncan with 6 on the shot clock, and Tim Duncan getting the field goal. Duncan has done well against Seattle the last 2 years, averaging 25 points a game, 4 blocks, 12 rebounds. This is one of his favorite opponents, and Ray Allen, not to be denied, drives in for the hoop.
What a tough shot.
And what you like is that Seattle was stuttering a little bit here. Ray Allen is the person that's got to bring the confidence to this team. So regardless of what happened last time, he's still being aggressive offensively.
And now Allen is guarding Bruce Bowen all over him as Bowen drives in, leaves an open Nazir Muhammad from the baseline. It's the air ball, but the Spurs did not hit the rim, have 3 on the shot clock. They go in and Duncan slams it through. They were alert on the shot clock, and they now lead 13-6.
And that's where Parker presents such a problem because he can penetrate through the defense, force some help, and he's a good passer to be able to hit his guys when the help comes.
That wasn't a good pass. That was a great pass. As you see here, great save by Bruce Bowen. And look at this. How did he even know that Tim Duncan was there? I know that, I'd have shot that ball.
Meanwhile, Manu Ginobili and Robert Horry have come into the game. Manu Ginobili, who, without a whimper, and he was an all-star this year, and you don't find many teams where you say after one game of the playoffs you're coming off the bench and you accept the role, and Manu did.
Well, we talked in the open about what a tough matchup Rashard Lewis was. Manu Ginobili is a handful.
And I'll tell you what, on that last play, Rex, Bowen couldn't have defended Ray Allen any better as he hit his second field goal.
No, good offense, good defense. And Ray Allen, it's not surprising to see him come out and struggle a little bit early on in the first few minutes. He's facing a different type of defense than he saw in the entire last series.
Robert Horry, known for his playoff threes, misses his first foray. And there is Bowen trying to keep track of Allen. And Allen is going to the line a lot, loses the ball to Parker. It's a 2-on-1, and Parker uses his body well and gets his 9th point of the game, and the Spurs lead at 15-8 as Parker is a perfect 4 for 4 to start the game.
Well, because the Spurs will run also, that puts more pressure on the shooting that Seattle's doing, because if you shoot and never buy a shot, they're going to run and push you back.
And you're absolutely right. People think the Spurs prefer a half-court style on our half-court team. That's not the fact, Rex.
Not the fact. And as Greg Popovich was telling us before the game, they want to run. They want to explore. Tim Duncan runs. He runs under the bat, runs from end to end as good as any big man in this league. He runs underneath the basket, posts up strong. Now, they've got arguably the best player in the world on their team, and they want to get him touches, but they want to look to run first.
Vladimir Radmanovic, one of the prolific three-point shooters. In fact, the Sonics would have had 3 players with over 400 three-point attempts had not Radmanovic missed the last 19 games of the regular year. Here is Muhammad, who picked up the early foul, blocked out of bounds by James with 12 on the clock.
Well, and Seattle has to discover an inside game. Ray, when he was in, went under and posted up a couple of times, but they've got to get James involved in the offense a little bit rather than coming down and just throwing up those long jump shots.
No question, James averaging 17 points, 9 rebounds, almost quadrupling his regular season numbers in the first round against the Kings. Here is Ginobili firing the three, and he hits. First three-point field goal of the game, and the Spurs have opened up their biggest lead, 10 points.
And that's such a great asset to have when you put a guy who's really a starter like Mano on the bench, and then he comes in and starts off shooting and starts to be successful at it.
So Allen guarded by Bowen on the outside with 8 on the shot clock, penetrating inside, and Allen with a great balance gets it in. So Ray Allen now cooking, leads Seattle with 6.
That's just a ridiculous shot. I mean, a runner hanging in the air, as good a defense as you can play by Bruce Bowen. But again, Ray Allen, just a beautiful basketball player.
Horry with Ginobili, Nazr Mohammed, Tony Parker, and Bruce Bowen for the Spurs with 10 on the shot clock. Duncan getting the breather right now. Parker shuffling inside, and the foul as Nazr Mohammed is fouled by James, and that'll be his first.
Well, as you see here, Ray Allen just with a terrific one-on-one move out front. He gets just a half a step on Bruce Bowen, able to hang in the air and kiss it off the glass. Great move again, the extension, hang, and lovely basketball.
So Nazr Mohammed is on the free throw line, and Ray Allen, of course, has to have a big series for the Sonics to have a chance, leading all scorers in the playoffs, averaging over 32 a game. And Mohammed, who was acquired at the trading deadline for Malik Rose, who is a huge fan favorite here in San Antonio, acquired from the New York Knicks, and has been exactly what Greg Popovich has wanted, rebounding, shot blocks, and length into center position.
Well, he gives him the luxury of resting Tim Duncan, who we're still not certain as to how well his ankle is right now. The bad part of it is, though, that Tim has the respect defensively in there, and you don't get Ray Allen being as aggressive with his penetration when Tim is in the game.
There is Duncan on the sideline right now, scored 4 points. Mohammed with his first points of the game, a 9 points San Antonio lead.
And speaking of Nazr Mohammed, anytime you add a Kentucky Wildcat to your roster, you're going to get better, aren't you, Coach?
Why? That's my question.
Spoken like a Kentucky Wildcat.
Short jumper by Rashard Lewis.
Well, see, and that's good, Dick, what's going on now. Seattle is now trying to stop throwing up, particularly in the half-court sets, those long shots and get a better percentage shot.
Parker feeding inside. Allen trying to save it for the Sonics, and does. Good play by Ray Allen. Boy, he is sharp early on after missing a couple of shots. Here's Allen going down the middle and scoring. Ray Allen with 8 points to start the game, and the Sonics trailing by 5, and now Greg Popovich wants to talk it over.
And Tim Duncan is sitting on the bench. Ray Allen is very smart. You know, earlier he was taking the jump shot. The immediate when they took Tim Duncan out, he started to penetrate through the middle.
So it's game 1, just the start of things. Second round, best of 7 in the West. But
against Sacramento tonight, 0 points. They need him to go from being the big snacks to the main course.
No question about it, Charles. And 4 straight double-doubles for James. But no surprise that Greg Popovich said, I was looking at film of him when he played against Houston, and he was doing the same things he did during the season that he did against Sacramento.
Well, I think Greg, even though he wasn't getting the ball frequently, he knew that he had the ability if he did receive the ball. That's what they've got to do now. They've got to hit him some to make the defense react to him. He hasn't received passes.
Manu Ginobili with the lay-in, and there is Allen missing the 3. The rebound, and it's Robert Horry as he hits the deck. And Antonio Daniels is coming the game for Luke Rittenauer at point guard, the former San Antonio Spur, who's played with a title, driving to the basket. And Rashard Lewis will pick up the personal foul.
As you see here, Manu Ginobili is a handful. He drives, just straight line drives past Ray Allen, and the ability to float in the air and kiss it off the other side of the glass. You know, it's always tough playing against the lefty. You know, most of the people that you play against are right-handed, and he just throws you off just a little bit. And I've always thought it was a distinct advantage if you're a left-handed ball player.
So there's Ginobili coming off the bench, yet leading the Spurs in scoring, averaging nearly 23 a game, and he will go to the free throw line. In fact, he has gone to the line, second to Paul Pierce in the first round of the playoffs. So he will drive to the basket and slice his way in. Meanwhile, it is a 9-point Spur lead as we approach 3 minutes remaining in the opening quarter. And a foul called as Nick Collison also checked in for Seattle. The personal foul is against Bruce Bowen, and that's 2 on Bowen.
You know, one of the things that Nate has done real well with the Seattle team is because of the fact that Bowen is so tough defensively, he's letting Allen bring the ball down the court and put the ball in his hand much earlier so it won't be denied in the half-court sets.
I wonder if all that talk before the series started, officials watching it very closely, and Bowen picking up 2 fouls as Daniels with a fall-away hitting. So there is Antonio Daniels, who played 4 years with the Spurs and still makes his home here in San Antonio and was a groomsman when Tim Duncan got married. Parker lays it in, and the Spurs getting some free layups, including Parker, who has 11.
That's why Tim Duncan's so valuable. He's able to step out on the floor, thread the needle, pinpoint a pass. There's nothing in this ball game that he doesn't do. He's a great ball handler.
Radmanovich missing with the 3, under 2.5 to go in the first quarter. Radmanovich, the big presence, so Parker gives it to Duncan off balance, but gets the foul anyway. So Duncan is fouled. And that'll be the 4th team foul against the Sonics.
Well, as you see, Tony Parker is going to go backdoor. Tim Duncan with great vision. Antonio Daniels fell asleep for just a split second and gets backdoor.
Foul is on Collison. Duncan, who has improved his free throw shooting to 73%. Spurs did as well, but that is not by any means the strongest part of his team.
Tim Duncan has always struggled at the free throw line, and if you watch, sometimes, Coach, he gets back on his heels. He won't get up on his toes far enough, and his shot, he's moving in all different directions, and it causes him to front rim, back rim, and do anything but make shots at times. But right now, he seems to be in a very good rhythm in his free throws.
Well, the pity of it is that San Antonio Spurs are an attacking team in terms of penetrating to the goal. And even if Duncan doesn't have the ball, it's going to be slipped to him, and he's going to have a lot of free throw opportunities.
Biggest lead for the Spurs, 27-16, as Duncan hits them both. And they'll have an offensive foul called against Nick Collison, so he picks up his 2nd foul. The Sonics going to their bench, and Danny Fortson installed by Nate McMillan, who has transformed this team. There is Fortson, who in the 2 games that the Sonics beat San Antonio had 2 major contests.
Well, Greg Popovich knows the importance of having a guy like Danny Fortson. He was huge in the 2 wins in the regular season against this San Antonio Spurs team. Averaged 15 points and 10 rebounds. And in the 1 loss, he didn't play one of the games. In the 1 loss, he had 2 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 free throws for a triple couple.
So you love getting that in once a game. So a jump ball coming up here with just under 2 minutes remaining in the first quarter. There is Danny Fortson. Not a big factor in the first round, and you kind of sense he'll have a bigger role against the Spurs.
Well, his role is his physicalness. He's got to learn to use it and not lose it. He can't let himself get excited and get to the point where he gets the officials mad at it. But his being physical and banging and bumping is going to be extremely valuable. I don't think that they should not be physical in this against the Spurs.
They would have no chance if they don't play in that style. And Nate McMillan.
Well, the biggest problem is the fact that Tim Duncan can step outside on him and doesn't have to be on the block and penetrate from that.
Arnold Ginobili driving to the basket is fouled, as right now the Sonics have a small lineup in there with Fortson, Radmanovich, and Allen, Rittenauer, and Daniels. A small team in there, and the foul is against Fortson. And going to line will be Manu Ginobili. Well, to get a complete all-access look at the NBA playoffs, tune in tomorrow at 7 p.m. for NBA TV Insiders with special guests Jim Spanarkel and Bill Raftery, only on NBA TV.
Well, back to Danny Fortson for a second. He picked up the foul there. Danny is a guy, as we were talking before the game, he's a guy that has a different mentality than any player on the court. For either team. He's a little bit, got a mean streak, that's for sure, and he throws his body around well for an undersized power forward. So he's going to be very important in this series.
Daniels driving in, strong to the foul, and he's a physical guard, and he'll go to the line. The Spurs have brought in Beno Udrih, their impressive point guard rookie, and Barry holding on to his right wrist. And the personal foul will be against Tim Duncan, so 2 on Duncan, and
But see, that's a good thing about Daniels, though, because you said that his being physical, going to the basket, that puts more pressure on Tim. You're not going to stop Tim at his offensive end, but why not get him in foul trouble when he's on defense? You're not going to get him in foul trouble by just launching up long threes if they're not going in. That's counterproductive. He also is more experienced defensively when he's out there guarding the penetrating guards of the Spurs.
And I'll tell you this, 2 fouls on Tim Duncan is huge. The last thing that Greg Popovich wanted was to get Tim Duncan in any kind of foul trouble. Seattle.
There's another one.
Oh, no. Seattle's chances dramatically improved with Tim Duncan on the bench.
Yeah, but you know what? I also think Tim Duncan is smart enough when he has 2 fouls out there, Rex, that that he will watch what he does. Now, that doesn't mean he won't pick up his third because he's human, but he'll have to watch it, just like that last collision with Fortson picking up the foul, and you know, it could go Duncan's way as well.
I agree with you completely. He is a very cerebral player, but Danny Fortson is the kind of guy that gets under your skin. He's always agitating, always. He's the aggressor always, and he's trying to get you to retaliate. So with 2 fouls on Tim Duncan, especially here in the first quarter, is something to keep an eye on.
Fortson will go to the bench.
Well, see, that's the problem. He's got to use it. Fortson gets in in foul trouble too quickly because they need him on the floor. They need his presence because people are conscious of how aggressive he is.
Hey, this Sonic bench outscored the Spurs 40-26 during the regular year, and Nate McMillan says if we don't get production from our bench, we're going to be in deep trouble, and Fortson a big part of that. So under a minute and a half remaining in the first quarter, Dick Stockton, Rex Chapman, John Thompson, and Charles Davis with you. The pass into James, and defended by Duncan. Short jumper, and that's what he did against the Kings.
And I like that, too, because he caught the ball. It was a good catch, first of all. People underestimate the catch. And as well as that, he attacked him and went to the basket with the ball.
First field goal for Jerome James.
First pass, probably, too, on the block.
And a steal by Radmanovich on a skip pass attempt. And here's Ricknauer. So right now the Sonics got a little bigger with James, and he's got the pick and roll. He just slid in and got the basket, and now it is a 30-22 lead.
And I like it. I like the fact they've given the big fella a couple of touches. They need to reel him in from the last series a little bit. He's a guy that averages about 4.5 shots a game. He's not going to be the offensive force he was in the series for Sacramento, but again, he's going to be big.
Ori, great ball movement inside, and the field goal by Duncan. So Ori, with great court sense, fouled Duncan. The foul against James, his second. And Duncan will try for the three-point play right now as James appeals that foul to Derek Stafford.
Well, and you look at this, Jerome James is getting the ball inside. That's a great pass by Lute. He gets it inside to him. He gets to feel good about himself. Now you come down here. Ginobili penetrates. Anytime you penetrate and drop it off to a big guy, you're getting him shots that are basically uncontested. The thing that the Spurs do extremely well is attack, though. They're constantly putting pressure on the defense, which gets them to the line.
Rashard Lewis comes back into the game. He has scored 4 points. Luke Ridnour going out has scored 2. Duncan with 10 is the leading scorer. Actually, Parker with 11 leads the Spurs. And Duncan also now with 11. Half a minute remaining. And an 11-point Spurs lead.
Well, Jerome James has a legitimate beat because he was assessed that last foul, and that foul was on Vladimir Radmanovich.
So Seattle shooting 56%, but trailed by 11. How often does that happen? Why? Spurs at 65%. And a lot of them have been layups in this game. Here's Radmanovich beating James, and a block by Duncan. The follow misses, and here's the fast break. Ginobili to Barry, and he scores. No half-court offense there. And the quick shot with time running out, put in by Rashard Lewis, and the basket will count as time runs out in the first quarter. So a flurry of action in the final seconds of this first quarter, Rex.
Wow. Good tip in. I believe they're going to have to review that because that sure looked like it was a little bit after the buzzer to me.
I thought it was good, Rex. Did you? Yeah, I did.
By the naked eye, right? You don't need a replay, John.
Well, the big fella took the shot. Rashard Lewis there to gobble up the miss. It's going to be pretty close, but Seattle hanging in there tonight.
22, Bennett Salvatore and his crew waved off that tip in by Rashard Lewis. Said it just came a fraction after the red light went on.
Well, I was trying to give the big man credit. I mean, Rex was right, but, you know, give the big guy credit for hustling.
Well, in all honesty, I don't like kissing up to these referees anytime, but I will say we've got the best referees in the business. I see a lot of ball games, college, high school, and a lot of times those guys determine outcomes of ball games, not our guys. We got the best in the world.
And our guy here, John Thompson, immediately, with the naked eye, thought that they did not convert it. He was right. So we start the second quarter. Beno Udrih guarded by Luke Ridnour. Antonio Daniels along with Rashard Lewis. Vladimir Radmanovic is in the game, but Vitaly Potapico, who has yet to play in the playoffs, is seeing his first action right now. And there is Udrih going in. Barry passing to Ginobili all night to try the three. And the rebound by Potapico. So Nazr Mohammed with Ori defending with Barry Ginobili and Beno Udrih.
The penetration of the Spurs is the thing that Seattle's got to stop, because they're getting the layups off of their penetration or easy outside jump shot.
And here's Lewis, throws a pass under the backboard and turns it over. Speaking about layups, the Spurs have 12 baskets. Half of them have been layups or dunks.
And that's where the problem is coming, because when they're penetrating, they're even getting their big guys free dunks.
Meanwhile, Seattle has yet to hit a three-pointer, and that is their stock and trade as Ginobili's pass inside and Barry missing connection. So taking a look at our first quarter stats as you did, Seattle trailing by 13, the biggest lead for the Sonics, and this is a prolific scoring team, only 22, Rex.
That's a problem, and it's going to be interesting right now. We've already seen 3 possessions in this quarter, 3 turnovers. These are 2 hodgepodge lineups that these coaches have put out here as Ridnour makes a nice floater, but where these teams are going to generate offense right now is going to be very interesting.
And that was good for Ridnour, because he seemed to be a little bit tight. Came out, Parker jumped right on him very aggressively. He needs to get in the flow, too.
Another offensive rebound by Nazr Mohammed, and he's Ginobili. And he caught his own pass, so it'll go over to the Sonics. So right now, Greg Popovich probably a little disturbed that the Spurs a little out of control early in the second.
Well, they had to think so easy out there now, and when that happens, you've got to be very careful that you don't take this team out of here right now, and you tend to get careless.
Leading scorers in the game for the Spurs, Duncan and Parker each with 11. Ray Allen with 8 right now on the bench. Top scorer for the Sonics, Potapico, the veteran big guy, and the double team on Rashard Lewis. Feed to Potapico, and Ridnour really threw him a good pass.
That's impressive. Great pass, entry pass by Luke Ridnour, but it's impressive because Potapico didn't play at all in the Sacramento series and come in and have touch like that. Good hands, that's impressive.
Good ball movement by the Spurs as Barry feeding Bruce Bowen. And Bowen with his first field goal of the game, and you leave him open in the corner, he'll burn you with the threes. Rashard Lewis and only white jerseys underneath for the rebound.
See, and that's an ill-advised shot that quickly, I think, particularly with Tim Duncan not in the game. Seattle's had more success getting into the lane when Duncan is not there.
Here is Robert Horry with the hook shot, and he's got it. Greg Popovich said, yeah, we'll run, but we won't shoot too early on the break.
He wants to push it up, see what they've got early, and then get into a secondary break, and always try to give Tim Duncan touches.
Here's Radmanovic beating Potapico, knocked away, and here's another break. Daniels is back. Barry goes behind to Mohammed, who did not handle the pass well, but plenty of time on the shot clock.
It was a poor decision by Barry. He gave Nazr Mohammed the ball in a very vulnerable spot for a big man to catch that thing.
He's got Ori with the turnaround and off the rim. And here comes Antonio Daniels. Daniels has been finishing the game so far in the playoffs and has been in there at the end, as has Nick Collison. And they're going to call Brent Barry with the foul, his first. So with just under 9 minutes remaining second quarter, the Spurs have led all the way in this game and are up by 13, matching their biggest margin of the game.
Seasons against San Antonio, the Supersonics have only averaged 88 points per ball game, but in their 2 wins this year over the Spurs, they scored over 100 points. So what you've been talking about, their lack of points, well, we've got evidence about what they need to do in order to win.
Well, Charles, 8 times this year, Team scored 100 points against the Spurs, and they lost all 8 games. But right now, you look up at the board, you see 26 for the Sonics. And offensive foul called against Rashard Lewis as he runs into Glenn Robinson. Big Dog making his first appearance in this series.
Well, you know, Seattle has got a problem when San Antonio has Glenn Robinson playing defense.
and guarding Rashard Lewis.
Right.
And you're not going to attack the Spurs team defense with one pass and a penetration because they collapse in the direction of the ball so well.
And Radmanovich is hurt. He's on the floor, and it's 5 against 4 right now. And to stop the clock, Daniels alertly fouls Brent Barry. So Radmanovich is shaken up.
Looked as if Radmanovich got tangled up and possibly twisted his ankle.
Radmanovich missed the last 19 games with a stress fracture of the right leg.
And as you see here, he comes out and closing out, trying to stop, and just rolls that thing, and that just makes my stomach turn. Oh, oh, it's the worst feeling in the world. Yeah, one of them.
Really unfortunate. And he's going to have to be helped up. He's still on the floor. And carried off. This is sad.
Hopefully he'll be able to tape it up, come back, get it x-rayed, and you know, a lot of times those things look worse than they are. Tim Duncan sure wrenched his very badly late in the season, I should say, and missed the last 20 or so games of the season.
Well, Tim Duncan suffered the sprained right ankle, but Radmanovich, who Nate McMillan was counting on. In fact, he said a team with Radmanovich on the floor was the best 5 he could use against San Antonio.
Well, and that's quite obvious based on the fact that Ray Allen demands so much attention. When Ray is out there, he's one of the few Sonics that can penetrate with the basketball as well as catch and shoot. The defense, because it's so team-oriented, tends to collapse in his direction. Radmanovich is a guy who shoots well standing.
Absolutely. In case you're wondering, Allen left at the end of the quarter. The score was 4-4 since. Tim Duncan has gone to the bench twice tonight, and while he sat, the game was 12-12. So even Steven with Allen and Duncan watching the action. 7 on the shot clock. Here is Duncan with the turnaround and the rebound by Ray Allen.
I think the Sonics have far more of a dependency on Ray Allen, though, than the Spurs do on Tim, particularly shooting good.
And there they put Radmanovich in a wheelchair to take him into the dressing room.
And Ray Allen, as he went to the bucket, he tweaked his ankle. Right as he was about to jump and plant, and he just rolled his ankle over.
And Luke Rittenauer loses the ball out of bounds. So right now, this is a time that the Seattle Sonics have to really band together. They're down by 13 with 4 minutes gone by in the second. And they want to avoid getting into a big hole against the Spurs on the road. Damian Wilkins will be coming in. Here are the players playing right now. The basket counts and a foul as Tony Parker with the field goal. A 6-0 run could be 7 if Parker makes the free throw.
And Luke Rittenauer cannot guard Tony Parker. Not many people in this league can when they're isolated like that. The thing that it's hurting Seattle with is not just his defense, but his confidence offensively when he goes back. You look, Tony's going to the basket. Almost every Spur, his first option is to go to the basket because Tim is sitting there. You're not going to help, or if you do help, he'll end up getting a dunk.
So Parker now with 14 points, shooting 6 out of 7 from the field. And a 16-point Spurs lead.
And we can't discount the fact Seattle's not missing shots, not just missing shots. This San Antonio defense is terrific.
Well, that's what they make their living on. Wilkins in the game, Damian Wilkins. And Potampico has the ball knocked away out of bounds. Last touch by the Spurs. 5 seconds on the shot clock, and you see Ray Allen being tended to on the bench.
He took that ball to the basket, and right as he was getting ready to go up, he just rolled his ankle over, kind of got tangled up with Bruce Bowen, and that's one ankle injury that they cannot get past. If that's significant, that's bad news for Seattle.
And the leaner missed by Daniels. Damian Wilkins, the rookie from Georgia, coming in for Ray Allen. And the Sonics hope he gets back. Nobody underneath to defend against Tim Duncan, and Bowen fouled him. So Duncan now with 13 points, and the lead has been stretched to 18. And a timeout called by Nate McMillan as the Spurs have run off 9 straight here, and we're not even halfway through the second quarter. X factor by Ray Allen coming into this series because of what he could do from three-point range in 2 games in the regular season. Hit double figures, but now Ray Allen, who's had some ankle problems of his own, still on the bench. Allen has scored 8 points.
As you see Ray go to the basket right there and just tweak that ankle. I'm a little bit queasy sitting over here, guys. You know, it got me where late in my career, every time I got a cold, I had to tape my ankles because if I sneezed, I might turn my ankle.
Well, Tony Parker puts so much pressure on you, bringing the ball down the court. Probing to get inside all the time, pulling the defense with him.
Here's Glenn Robinson, good mid-range jump shot, but Potapico won't let him get it off. 8 on the shot clock. Good defense. This is the best we've seen Seattle all game as Robinson misses, but the rebound by Manu Ginobili.
And Nate McMillan is just searching right now. He's got the young rookie Damian Wilkins in the game, trying to give his team a spark any way he can.
And Duncan with a traditional bank shot against Potapico. So the run now is 11-0, and Tim Duncan has 15 points.
I don't know if anybody can really appreciate how tough a shot that is. I mean, just ridiculous. A 20-foot bank shot.
Second chance points, 10-0 in favor of the Spurs, and they've been kind of easy second chance points at that.
Very easy second chance points because defense concludes with getting possession of the ball.
That's the last thing you want. You want the rookie taking an early shot in the clock, and it's a 3, the air ball, and coming back, and Parker misses, winds up on his back. Here come the Sonics, who have been out of sync almost since the start of this game. 6 minutes remaining in the second quarter. Here's Daniels hitting the jumper. So Antonio Daniels now with 6.
They're going to need a lot more of that, but Antonio Daniels, you got to be happy for him. He's having a great year this year from Nate McMillan's bunch. A guy that's really worked on his game. Was the 4th overall pick years ago, and a guy who couldn't shoot an outside jump shot. He's really worked on it.
Duncan going in. Easy layup. Tim Duncan. Where is the physical play by the Sonics?
Well, they look like the Spurs look like they're scrimmaging. I mean, it's just like shells in practice. They're passing the ball around, getting whatever they want, whenever they want it.
20-point game. Daniels dribbles it away out of bounds. Got to remember, these teams feel good about themselves after missing round 1 to get past round 2, and Nate McMillan's done a great job with this club. They open up 15-2, winning 9 straight after the opening loss, but playoff experience carries so much of a factor here. And right now is Bruce Bowen. Ray Allen going into the dressing room. So how dismal can things get right now for the Sonics?
Well, it can't get much worse. And you see the Sonics have gone to a 2-1-2 zone.
Parker's tip misses. Another offensive rebound by Duncan. Another second chance point. 3-point attempt by Robinson. Look at the Spurs crashing the offensive board. They've made a living off of it in this first half.
Seattle is completely demoralized right now. And really their energy just went in the locker room because Ray Allen is the inspiration to this team. He's the guy when things go bad, Dick, that has to initiate confidence.
Robinson and Bowen go to the bench, as does Potapico. So right now it's Daniels with Rittenauer, Wilkins. And into the first game for the first time since he started was Reggie Evans. Only played 6 minutes. And Rashard Lewis.
Well, like you said, Coach, Seattle went to a 2-1-2 zone last time down the floor. I don't care. They can go to a 2-3-2-1-2 zone. If they don't have Ray Allen on the floor, they're in serious trouble.
Crashing the boards are the Sonics to no avail. And
see, the Sonics have to get some spirit from somewhere right now. It's hard because they've been demoralized. It started with Tony Parker starting the game and jumping right away on loop and penetrating. And he set the tone for the whole game.
Spurs can open up their biggest lead with 4.5 minutes remaining in the first half. Dick Stockton, John Thompson, Rex Chapman, and Charles Davis with you at the SBC Center. Game 1, best of 7. Winner goes to the Western Finals. And a tough move inside by Glenn Robinson. It's taken him a while to learn the system. Everyone who comes into this club, that's the way it is, but they like his offense.
Well, he's done a terrific job, and I got to tell you, Glenn Robinson's body looks great. You know, he's lean, he's playing defense, and he's always been able to score in this league. Been a 20-point scorer in this league for a long time.
Biggest lead of the game right now for the Spurs. 5 on the shot clock. Here's Rittenauer. Tough shot from the baseline. Didn't really have the shot. And the whistle blows and the shot clock violation, and it goes over to the Spurs. They have totally dominated the Sonics in game one thus far.
Well, Glenn Robinson just doing what he does best, and that's score. He got cut off, good defense, but he can do one thing well, and that's put the ball in the basket.
Well, right now, Seattle is totally frustrated in terms of how they're playing. You would think that Rashard Lewis right now is the only player that I see out there, Daniels, that's got to take this thing upon himself and become more aggressive now.
Evans guarding Duncan. And there's the cat and mouse game, and this bank shot doesn't go, but Duncan again gets the rebound. No look to Robinson, fires a three, and Glenn Robinson has given the Spurs a 53-28 lead, so it's an 18-2 run in 6.5 minutes for San Antonio. Daniels goes in and the shot is blocked, but Rittenauer intercepts the down-court pass. Here's Lewis. And nothing is dropping for the Sonics. The Spurs having a lot to do with that. And now a technical foul called against Nate McMillan. Why not? What else can he do?
I agree. And, you know, Nate may just beg to get thrown out of this game. But, you know, he's got a legitimate gripe. Antonio Daniels got hit going to the basket. But he's doing anything he can do right now to get his team fired up.
Thrown out of the game. If I was Nate right now, I'd want to get thrown out of the building. We all have been there. We all have sat there when things have gone this way. You know, Nate's done a tremendous job with this team, but obviously today, so far, that they haven't gotten it done.
John, all you did was snap that towel over your shoulder.
I put it over my head right now.
Well, you know, and in Seattle's defense, they had a tough series against the Sacramento Kings. As you see, Antonio Daniels go to the bucket. I mean, he gets hit there. There's no doubt about that. You know, whether it was after the shot, I don't know. But they've definitely taken a step up in class, gone from allowance company today to stakes company playing against the San Antonio Spurs.
Still appealing is Nate McMillan to Derek Stafford. Glenn Robinson hit the technical, and it's a 20 Spurs defense. And Rex talked about possible matchup situation that could benefit Rashard Lewis early. 2 for 9 shooting for Rashard Lewis right now. And right now, you know, where does Seattle find an answer, guys?
Well, I've got to take Rashard Lewis to task right now. He's got to step up. He complained a little bit in the last series about not getting the ball. Well, it's the whole, you know, be careful what you wish for, guys. Right now, he can get all the shots he wants. Ray Allen is in the locker room, but Rashard Lewis is an all-star. He's got to turn him to a superstar.
And Ray Allen's being in the locker room is a serious problem for them because he's the kind of guy that can on his own get out there and inspire his team with his ability as well as his leadership. They don't have anybody out there right now that can do that.
Here's Ginobili going to three-point territory to Barry, hitting Brent Barry, and that's why they got him. Why he signed after playing 5 years with the Sonics. 57-28. It's a 29-point lead, and so all the three-point baskets have been by the Spurs. Seattle known for the three and not hit one yet. And we're seeing our first look at Ronald Murray, who's hardly seen any playoff action. Murray driving in, and it's blocked by Duncan. Outlet to Parker. Here's Tony Parker, fouled by Wilkins. And right now, let's toss it to our studio and Ernie Johnson.
All right, thank you, Dick Stockton. Coming up at halftime, Charles and Kenny will be here to break down the first half and tell you all the things San Antonio is doing right. And it's been a while, but Kenny's going to take us onto his court and teach us something so you guys can take notes at halftime. We're all going to learn, I think. Back to you, Dick.
Ernie, we have our legal pads out, all three of us, to take notes. So we're looking forward to that. Tim Duncan goes to the bench, having scored 17. And the Sonics, meanwhile, have scored only 2 points in the last 7.5 minutes. And Tony Parker misses the second free throw, but the Spurs on a 23-2 run, guys.
This is the home of the Alamo, isn't it?
Yes. A little history in there.
Oh, my goodness.
Right now, the way this is shaping up, this is about these two teams getting a little bit of conditioning in.
And Damian Wilkins with a nifty layup, his first points of the game with 2 minutes to go in the first half, 58-30. So the Spurs opening up a 30-point lead, and coming in for the short jumper, Tony Parker.
There's absolutely no defense at all in the lane for Seattle. Parker, Ginobili, those guys just go to the basket and get whatever they want.
Another loose ball, 4-on-2 break. And Barry not getting control. Now Parker with 3. Rebound by Evans. Parker now 7 of 11 from the field. He has 17, as does Tim Duncan, to lead the Spurs. Under a minute and a half to go. Here's Murray going in, gets the layup and a foul. So we're getting some hustle from the likes of Damian Wilkins and Ronald Murray in the latter stages.
Well, those two guys are hungry. They've been sitting over there for a long time watching these guys play every day. And Ronald Flip Murray, he's a scorer. This guy came in for Ray Allen early last year while Ray Allen was on the injured list and put up big numbers in this league. So we all know that he's capable of putting up a huge amount of numbers in any one ball game.
Well, Murray and Potampico had not played in the playoffs until tonight, and Wilkins had averaged only 5 minutes, and Murray misses the free throw.
And Damian Wilkins, who's the nephew of Dominique and the son of Gerald, former great NBA players. Damian, I've been impressed. He works hard every night. He's out here early working on his game.
Well, Nate McMillan has done a good thing, I think, by just putting those guys in because he has nothing to lose at this point. A lot of times you see them do what they just did. They scrap, they cut the lead, then you're able to put your starters back in, particularly if Ray Allen's able to come out and play.
Ori and Evans knocked the ball away from Ori from behind, and Robert picking up the foul. And it'll be 2 shots at the line. Want to remind you that tomorrow night on TNT, it's the Pacers and the Pistons, followed by the Mavericks and the Suns. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Eastern. Miami getting off to a 1-0 lead with a win over Washington. And there's a glum look that says it all for the Sonics.
I mean, those guys look like it's the final minutes of the game. And we've got a minute to go in the series. Yeah. I mean, that's a look of total dejection.
The most competitive and energetic Sonic right now is Nate McMillan. He's the guy that's doing most of the fighting. But all of us have been here. You'll see the Seattle team in another night, and they'll probably look like a totally different team.
Well, usually when a team really has everything go wrong for them in game 1, they do play better in game 2. Whether it translates to a win is problematic, but who knows? But they do play better.
Well, they certainly can't play worse than they're playing right now.
Right.
Well, are you guys saying this game is in the books?
No. This is and the shot clock violation. But at this point, with 38.4, you know, one of the great things about doing games is that we don't have to speculate and predict. We could just call the game. But calling it at this point, we are all unanimous in saying, look at the numbers.
I agree. And you look at that guy right there, Greg Popovich. He's done a terrific job. A few years ago, he takes over both duties as general manager and as coach. And, you know, he took some heat for a while. You know, should he do one? Should he do the other? He's vindicated himself by winning a couple of championships. And the guy is a terrific X and O guy. And I'll add this. Steve Nash, who's a good friend, he always says he judges players whether they can play in this league by if he thinks they can play, he can play for Greg Popovich. And if you can play for Greg Popovich, you can probably play for many teams in this league.
No question about it. And the shot clock and the game clock are even. And R.C. Buford, who right now is the general manager of the team, and he and Greg Popovich go way back. But Greg Popovich's hands in on any decision made here. And Murray is fouled. And let's see if Bowen gets called for it. It'll be his second foul. Earlier, we said Bowen had 2, and they moved it over to Duncan. So now the second foul against Bowen.
Well, that was just a foolish foul on Bowen's part at this stage and this point of the game. You know, going for a simple ball fake like that. If this thing does happen to change, knock on wood, that's a very crucial foul to him.
Murray in his 3rd year from Shaw, making the first free throw, 60-35 in favor of the Spurs.
The thing the Spurs have to be very careful of right now, a lot of times you'll see a coach be extremely hard on a team that has this kind of lead because you don't want to build in bad habits. This is still the playoffs. Seattle is better than they're playing now. And whoever they might have to play in the future will be better than this. And bad habits lend themselves to these kinds of games.
And I like what Greg Popovich is doing right here. There's 4.9 seconds to go. His team is up 25 points. But he's continuing to play like this is a close game. He's going to try to draw up a play and see if they can get a quality shot in the last 5 seconds of this half.
Hey, you know, they know, you know, as a coach, you know, it's still the second quarter, right? So you got to go play the game.
Second quarter, but you got to stretch your imagination a hell of a long.
Yeah.
You think this is a close game, you know, but he's absolutely right. You're playing. It's like when you try to set an official up for calls. You're playing for the future now. It's extremely important. because, look, they can come back. It's not impossible.
Right.
It's probably not probable, but they can come back. If Ray Allen is the key, what is wrong with Ray in the back? If he comes out, if the Spurs relax, then you put yourself in a situation where this can be a dangerous way of playing.
Ray Allen has been out the last 8 minutes, and in that time, the Spurs have outscored the Sonics by 10. So you got an idea. They were winning big anyway, even when Ray Allen was in the game. He scored 8 points to lead them, and here are the final seconds. Here's Tony Parker, and Parker puts it up and in. Parker with a great finger roll, and Parker with 19 points, and that'll do it for the first half. And unlike game 1 in the first round, when the Denver Nuggets stung the Spurs, it's a different story this time around. 62-35, and Parker leading the way.
Well, Greg Popovich must have called a timeout and said, Tony Parker, show us your talent.
And Tony Parker
right now,
his talent in the first part of the game, too.
Let's send it over to Charles Davis.
All right, thanks, Dick. Tony, 19 points in the first half. We talked off camera about how aggressive you might be offensively tonight. It appears that's paying off for you going against Luke Rittenauer.
Well, we didn't want to do the same mistake game 1 against Denver. We want to make sure we come out aggressive and make sure we play right away and don't give them any hope, don't give them any confidence. And I think they did a good job so far.
You know, Tony, now
He needs plays run for him. He needs to be set up. He's not a guy like Paul Pierce, a guy who kind of holds the ball out front, can do a lot of different things with it. He's a straight line driver and just really has to work on his game offensively with the ball.
Tony Parker, who has 19 points on 8 for 12 shooting. And the ball going up is Nazr Muhammad, and taken down by Murray. So it's a different kind of lineup now as Ronald Murray starts the second half with the turnaround. Good defense there, and Bowen gets it out to Duncan. Barry was already down court, and here's a 2-on-2 situation. And Parker going in off the rim. So it'll be Evans, Murray, Jerome James, along with Rashard Lewis and Luke Rittenauer for the Sonics.
And you've got to get some kind of movement. I would say you got to get the ball into James a little bit, too, because that last possession, no one touched the ball but Murray.
41% shooting for Seattle. The Spurs, mostly by virtue of layups and dunks, 58% from the field. James is short. Lewis with the follow scores. Lewis has 6.
What the Spurs have to be very careful of, Rex, is that they don't want to pick up bad habits. It looks like Seattle won't be able to get back in it, but it's not impossible.
No, it's not impossible. And you got guys on the floor that got a lot of that have a lot of pride. And Flip Murray, he can be a prolific scorer.
Duncan facing the basket against Evans. Duncan with 17 points, hitting 6 of 9 in the first half. Misses the bank shot.
Well, see, and I don't like the body language right now of the Spurs, because they're really confident, as we are, that they probably should win this ball game, but they actually don't have the same energy and body language that they had going into the half.
It's tough to come out and play when you have a lead like this. It's always tough to stay sharp in a game, not take shortcuts, and play just like a game is close. You've got to have guys on your team, a guy like that, and Greg Popovich, and good leaders in order to stay sharp mentally in a blowout.
Reggie Evans picking up the foul. Parker, along with Nazr Muhammad, Brent Barry, who started tonight. Again, Ginobili coming off the bench as he has done the last 5 games of the playoffs ever since the opener against Denver. Driving in is Parker, winds up on the floor and holding on to his right elbow. So Parker shaken up. He'll go to the line to shoot 2, and the foul is against James. That'll be 3 on the Sonic center.
Always scares me when guys go running out of bounds and fall down there. I hate the fact that those cameramen are so close.
Sharp
to the court.
edges, right?
Well, sharp edges. You got feet that you can possibly step on. And like I said before, I'm no stranger to the sprained ankles. We've had a couple of them in this game. Just makes me queasy when I think about stepping on somebody's feet off the end of the court.
Here are the photons on the sideline. And Parker hitting the first free throw. What is really surprising with the shooting and the halftime statistics is the fact that the Seattle Supersonics 0 for 5 from three-point range. That was going to be one of their keys in the series.
Well, that was one of the problems, too, because they were taking three-point shots. Ray Allen is one of the few that can get in the middle, and they didn't get the ball into James early in the game.
Allen had 8 points, hit 4 out of 7 before he was shaken up. Bowen is guarding Murray. So the much heralded Bowen-Allen duel is snuffed out because of that injury here in at least the first game. Here is Evans, takes up a lot of space inside and draws the foul. So Evans will shoot, and that's what the Sonics have to do to get down low to free those people at the three-point line.
In the last few possessions, they've been able to get offensive rebounds. I wouldn't be surprised if you wouldn't see Pop become very active pretty soon. Usually when you have this kind of lead, you whip your team a lot harder sometimes because you're afraid of them becoming too complacent.
Well, he's a great competitor, and he's going to try to keep guys in the game that are mentally sharp. He's not going to stand for any type of complacency. He wants to keep this team on course to win a championship.
There you see Popovich checking with Parker. Your elbow okay? And he said he is. That last foul, by the way, was charged to Tim Duncan, his third of the game. And 1 out of 2 from the line for Reggie Evans. And the Spurs lead it 64-38. Here's a team, the Sonics, who scored nearly 100 points a game, 106 in the first round against Sacramento. And here they are early in the third with 38 on the board. Here is Parker, and kick ball by Rashard Lewis, so 14 goes on the clock.
And Greg Popovich looking up right away at Tony Parker and saying, what are you doing? And these are the type of plays. That was an almost impossible pass Tony Parker tried to make. He doesn't want his guys taking shortcuts.
Parker driving in, James lost it, Barry recovered, and Bowen loses it out of bounds. So right now, the Spurs are a little bit sloppy starting this third quarter.
It never fails. It never fails, Rex, because they tend to relax right now, looking at the scoreboard rather than letting the opponent be the game, not the score right now. Play the game the way it's supposed to be played.
Evans not shooting. Given the shot by Duncan. No foul. 5 on the shot clock. Rashard Lewis fires up a 3 and misses. So Rashard Lewis 3 for 12 from the field. Spurs, or the Sonics, have counted on him for major offense. Bowen, 2-point attempt. Doesn't go. 3 minutes gone by in the third quarter.
Seattle needs to really capitalize on some of this right now. Just chip away at this thing. Don't try to get it all at one time. Just try to put the score in a competitive position.
Here is Murray with the pull-up. Duncan with the rebound. So Tim Duncan now with 8 rebounds to go along with his 17 points. Brent Barry looking in as the post-up. And the tip by Evans and the steal. Here is Evans ahead of the field. And a timeout call, and you're right, you knew it was coming, didn't you, John?
Never fails. Pop is really angry over that. Most of the time you find yourself really beating your team when you have this kind of lead, because it's a natural instinct, as Rex indicated, for a team to sort of relax and to become sloppy at this when the score is like this and this lopsided.
So the Spurs with 7 possessions in this third quarter. John Thompson and Charles Davis. Timeout called by Greg Popovich. Didn't like what he saw early here in this third quarter as the Spurs playing lackluster ball. Nazr Mohammed. And still looks like the Spurs not right with things. Parker hitting a jumper. That'll turn things in a hurry.
Well, Tony Parker bailed him out that time. And like you said, Dick, another very lackluster possession by San Antonio. Tony Parker was fortunate to slop in a jump shot.
Luke Rittenauer at the point, and of course the wind out of the Sonic sails with the loss of Ray Allen with the sprained ankle in the second quarter. I mean, you're looking at the top scorer in the NBA in the playoffs.
Well, Tony Parker, as he comes off the high screen by Nazr Mohammed, gets his feet set, and he's going to knock that one down more times than not. So Tony Parker is a terrific player. He's kind of like a Kevin Johnson type of player. Tough to cover on the pick and roll. He gets to the basket, and he shoots the jumper very well. Rashard
Lewis shot the jumper extremely well there for the Sonics after Parker chalked up his 23rd point of the game. 66-42. The Spurs leading. They were up by as many as 30 before intermission. Duncan shooting over James. Short. Another offensive rebound. Another chance. Second chance points big tonight for San Antonio.
Like Nate McMillan said before the game started, he'll live with Tim Duncan beating him from the perimeter. He wants him to shoot jump shots.
Here's Bowen. And Rittenauer getting the rebound. And there's Rashard Lewis releasing 3 Spurs down there. And the foul from behind. It'll be a 2-shot foul, and it'll be Bowen. And that'll be 3 on Bruce Bowen.
Well, see, and that's the thing that Spurs have to be really careful of, because there's no way Lewis should have been in that position on a missed basket. They can't build in bad habits right now. They have got to make their opponent the game of basketball, not Seattle right now. If they don't watch out, they're going to end up having Seattle as their opponent because Seattle's going to chip away and get back in this thing.
And the one thing you don't want to do is make an easy game tough when you have a chance to breeze in game 1.
And it's a very difficult thing to do, because when you find yourself in this position that they're in, you could almost predict, Rex, that they were going to come out playing this way.
Well, without a doubt. And you know, what do we all do? We play the scoreboard. And in games like this, you're not playing the scoreboard. You're playing to get better and to stay the course on the road to the playoffs.
Manu Ginobili is tied up as Murray and Evans come over there, and we'll see our first look at Rasho Nesterovic as he comes into the game, replacing Tim Duncan. Duncan going out has scored 17 points. And Nesterovic, who had been the starting center for most of the year and then suffered a left ankle sprain, was limited at the end, and the improved play of Nazr Muhammad, and Muhammad then became the starter at center.
So you find yourself, if you're the Spurs now, watching the clock, because what you want this thing to do is to go into the last quarter and get out of here. But I was smiling just now because Nate McMillan was peeping down at Popovich, because he feels what Popovich is feeling right now, that this thing is a little sloppy, fellas. Keep on and just let us get it close enough and see how well Ray Allen finds Mr. Feelgood.
And no question about it, these Spurs are looking at this lineup that Seattle has on the court. Ooh, Nazr Muhammad. And they're looking down the floor, and there's no doubt it's human nature to underestimate the bench players that are playing for the Seattle Supersonics. So San Antonio just has to stay the course and get in the right frame of mind.
68-44. Here's Rashard Lewis, Luke Rittenauer, and Muhammad getting the rebound. So Luke Rittenauer 2 for 5, 6 points. He was least effective this year as the point guard against the Spurs than he was against any other Western Conference team. Here is Bowen, 7 on the clock. Parker double team, fighting through the double team, spinning his way in. Pretty move until he lost it to Jerome James.
Well, Parker is super quick. When you have those guys, those shirts congregated in the middle like that, and he split all of them.
Nesterovic defending against Evans. Double team on Evans, knocked away by Tony Parker, creating the turnover.
Would Tony Parker be considered a whirling dervish? and what is a dervish?
I don't know, but Manu Ginobili is as well.
Is there a regular dervish? Or do you have to be a whirling dervish?
One goes with the other. Manu Ginobili, and they're going to call the foul on Rasho Nesterovic, the offensive foul down inside. 5:28 remaining in the third quarter. Tim Duncan right now with 17 points, sitting this one out, and Parker with 23 leading the Spurs. Dick Stockton, John Thompson, Rex Chapman, Charles Davis. Game 1, best of 7, second round against Seattle. And a wake-up call for the Spurs when Denver beat them in Game 1 here at the SBC Center, and then the Spurs won 4 straight games. Rashard Lewis. Inside Evans, too far under the basket, and they're going to call traveling. He had no chance to put it up.
But the team defense of Spurs is absolutely great, because everybody retreats in the direction of the basketball. You pass it, they congregate. It's almost very similar to being played a zone right there.
And right here you see Rashard Lewis, he's got to shoot that ball, coach. He's giving it up to undersized Reggie Evans underneath the bucket, who is going up against 2 much bigger and taller players. He's got to shoot that ball, and that's Rashard Lewis's game. He's 1-2 dribbles, jump shooter.
Hey, this is the youngest team in the playoffs, John. Let's see, remember, they're going up against a team that has won 2 world titles in recent years on the road. Not an easy task.
And the team that won the 2 world titles are treating them like they're spanking their little brothers, too.
Rasho Nesterovic from outside hitting the jumper. And it's 70-44. Biggest lead was 30 with 4-4-4. 4-4-4 remaining in this third quarter, and inside James, who had a dynamite first round against Sacramento, but tonight 4 points, 2 rebounds on 2 for 7 shooting. The foul is against Nazr Muhammad. Rittenauer replaced by Antonio Daniels.
Well, James waited too long to make his move that time. He's using that Michael Jordan move where Michael flips his back, but what he's got to realize is that the defense reacts so well for the Spurs that he's wasting time. Either you go or you pitch it back out.
Muhammad and James chattering at each other, and of course we were anticipating a Bruce Bowen-Ray Allen clash. Those two have gone at it before. Allen's injury after he scored 8 points kind of took away and erased that possibility, but you never know with these teams. James with the turnaround, and it's tipped in by Collison, who's come in the game. Nick Collison.
I like what Nate McMillan's doing right now. He realizes he's going to have a chance to win this game or make it a game. He's going to have somebody get extremely hot. And his best chance is to have a guy like Flip Murray on the court who can give him instant offense.
He's playing a zone right now, too. That's interesting.
I think he's learning. I think he's seen things for the second game of this series.
Well, I think so, too. We're going to see what's effective and what's not. I like the fact that Jerome James is showing some nastiness out there, and these guys are going to compete. They're pros.
Murray off the front rim, and James fighting, but Nesterovic gets it. He's got Ginobili down court, but one thing the Spurs won't do is rush the shot. Nesterovic off his hands, Bowen, and now Parker.
And Greg Popovich looking at Manu Ginobili. That was just a horrible pass. He threw it. You don't know if it was two guys. There were two guys under the bucket he could have possibly gone to.
Parker with 25. Tony Parker, who in the first 2 games of the season series against Seattle was 39%, then 53 when the Spurs won the next 2 games, has hit 10 of 16 tonight. Out of the double team, good ball movement. Here's Daniels for 3, and he's got it. And that is the first 3-point field goal for the Seattle Sonics. And it comes with nearly 3 minutes to go in the third.
And you said it right, Dick. Good ball movement. That's just beautiful ball movement. Double team in the post, swing, open jump shot. Easy game.
Parker is batted away by Murray, and it was deflected, so it will not be a backcourt violation. 6 on the shot clock, though, with under 3 minutes to go. Ginobili slices by everyone, dices his way in. And the loose ball foul again called against Rasho Nesterovic. And right now, Greg Popovich is saying, let's get together here, guys, because this doesn't look too good, even though we're winning big.
Well, and he's putting a lot of heat right now, on Ginobili. But Ginobili came down the last time, tried to get it inside. The big guy missed it. Well, the kind of skills he and Tony Parker have, if you don't catch their passes, they say, okay, fellas, I have offensive skills. You won't see it anymore. They'll shoot themselves.
3 players in NBA history have won back-to-back titles with 2 different teams. Robert Horry, of course, with the Lakers and the Rockets. Ron Harper with the Bulls and the Lakers. Dennis Rodman with the Pistons and the Bulls. Something in common there, don't you think, about teammates?
I believe so. All of them were great teammates. I know that.
And they played with their teammate Robert Horry, playing with Shaq, and playing with Hakeem Olajuwon. And not to take anything away from Robert Horry, because he is Mr. May and Mr. June, has been a pressure-packed player in the playoffs and was so in the first round against them.
Well, they also are the kind of guys that guys want to play with. See, they have played star roles at times, but also are willing to play supportive roles if somebody else is doing well on the team.
Dennis Rodman with Detroit, playing with that group, and you know, the Bad Boys, and then with Michael Jordan, and the same thing for Ron Harper.
They were all terrific players and great teammates, you know, guys that you wanted to go to war with.
Here's Duncan back in the game.
Look who's guarding.
Danny Fortson.
There's no way that I would want Fortson guarding Duncan if I'm Popovich right now with the score like this.
I agree, and Manu Ginobili came out of that timeout and threw his towel against the bench just in disgust. I got a feeling he was getting an earful from Greg Popovich. But then, as we saw, Tim Duncan came back in the game. And you know what, Coach? Right now, sometimes you put those guys on the floor as punishment. You want them to play better. And you say, you're not going to sit over here and have the night off.
7 seconds on the clock. Nesterovic setting a screen for Parker, who gets into the lane. And Parker finds Rasho. No basket. And a 3-second violation called against the Spurs. Spurs have scored only 10 points here in this second quarter on 30% shooting, and now Rashad Lewis holding on to his left hand. I believe it is. Well, we'll check to see what it is, and maybe it's more severe than that. And 5 turnovers and only 1 assist.
Don't believe he was holding on to his left hand.
No. But, hey.
Well, the guy was...
At least he'll be back.
I'm going to stay out of that conversation.
We hope.
At least he'll be back.
He'll come back. But I tell you what, I definitely think they have to be concerned about Duncan's well-being right now.
I think so, too. You know, right now, as much as I would want to put Tim Duncan into the game and get him some reps and up and down the floor, I don't want Danny Fortson guarding him.
Under no circumstance.
Tim Duncan, by the way, has played 21 minutes, so he hasn't overplayed in this game. He hasn't had to be an Iron Man, as you see Fortson there. Duncan is going to stay in the game, and Rashard Lewis is going to get still down on the floor. 72-50. Big story, though, for Seattle as far as injuries is the sprained ankles of Vladimir Radmanovic and Ray Allen. Ray going out with 7 minutes plus remaining in the second quarter, scoring 8 points. And the big scorer, the guy who really keys Nate McMillan's club, held out for the rest of the game, as was Radmanovic, who came off, by the way, in a wheelchair into the locker room.
Well, Rashard Lewis is not doing well right now, and I know there's a lot of people out there that feel for that man. Not to make light of the situation, but he is definitely struggling. Definitely.
I'll tell you what, if anybody else goes down for Seattle, you might see resurrected the player-coach situation again over there. Nate may have to put on a...
Or Slick Watts.
Nate McMillan, and you know, I hate to bring this up again, but you know, Dwayne Casey, he played some basketball in his time.
And where did he play with?
He did go to the University of Kentucky.
Oh.
But I need to say this. Dwayne Casey's got to get a shot coaching in this league, doesn't he, Coach?
Well, I would think so, very definitely so, because I think he's one of the hardest working guys that you'd ever want to be around, and I respect his knowledge of the game.
And another guy, P.J. Carlissimo, who had a conversation with Isaiah Thomas about the New York Knicks opening. Of course, a lot talked about Phil Jackson. We know Larry Brown isn't going to go anywhere if he coaches. But P.J. Carlissimo, who has not been able to really get much of an interview, has been interviewed by Isaiah Thomas, and a possibility, one of the candidates for that Knicks job. So a timeout taken, 2:10 remaining in the third, and a huge lead for the Spurs. As the San Antonio Spurs have limited the Seattle Sonics to 39% shooting. This year, the Spurs, #1 in the NBA, allowing only 88 points a game. And until Tim Duncan went out, they were #1 in the NBA in field goal percentage against. This is what this team does. They lost only 3 regular season games here at the SBC Center. One of those losses inflicted by Nate McMillan's Seattle Sonics, who are playing without Ray Allen, Vladimir Radmanovic, Lewis on the bench as well. 2 minutes remaining in the third quarter. So Wilkins, Damian Wilkins, the rookie from Georgia. Here is Flip Murray going up, blocked by Nesterovic. Ginobili leaves it for Barry. Taking his time at the open 3. Dano Ubert nearly lost it and did lose it.
It never fails that a team plays this way when they get this kind of lead.
And Wilkins missing from outside. Because Seattle would like to take advantage of it as Barry drives to the basket. You got to make a team like the Spurs pay for it, Rex, on the other end when they turn it over.
You do. Brent Barry did a nice job that time. But what Greg Popovich wants, it never fails. As you see Brent Barry go to the bucket right here, he wants his team to run their stuff, run their offense. But what you do as a player sometimes is you want to hear that coach. You don't want him in your ear so much, and you start pressing more and more. Sometimes things can snowball on you.
Well, it's human nature for you to look up at the scoreboard and say, this may be a chance for me to get a few numbers.
Brent Barry makes 1 out of 2. Brent Barry, of course, now that John Barry has been eliminated by Houston, Rick Barry, one of the 50 greatest players and a legend in the NBA, could focus on Brent. And that's what he's obviously doing in a 73-50 game. Nick Collison driving in and getting the layup. Collison, who missed all of last year due to surgery on both shoulders. An impressive rookie, really playing his rookie year out of Kansas.
You know, if this game continues the way it is right now, I wouldn't want to play this. I wouldn't want to play Seattle if I was the Spurs again, because this may carry over. This attitude may carry over to the next ball game. The one thing we know that Seattle's a better team that is playing. Obviously, the Spurs are a very good team, but you've got to be careful if you're the Spurs, because your next opponent on Tuesday happens to be the Seattle Supersonics, and you can't come out playing against them like this when the score is 0-0.
Well, no doubt about it. And, you know, we're not going to see Ray Allen tonight. I would venture to say we will see him in game number 2, but San Antonio won't know that probably until game time.
Murray with the air ball, and then the block. Duncan gets hit. Duncan got hit, I'm not sure where, and under 2 minutes remaining. As the Spurs, who have 7 turnovers and only 1 assist, which speaks volumes here in the third quarter. We have under 20 seconds and 10 on the shot clock. Beno Udrih, the point guard, and bumped by Fortson. No basket, the foul before the shot. And Fortson will commit his 4th foul.
I disagree. I believe that's continuation in this league. The youngster learning very quick. You hear that whistle and throw the ball up near the basket. And let's see here. Little crossover dribble. There's the foul, a step, a shot. That's continuation in this league. Another time. And Udrih, Beno Udrih has been a pleasant surprise for Greg Popovich this year.
You're picking the 28th, and you get a guy who becomes your backup point guard out of Slovenia. 41% three-point shooter, and he played in several leagues, Russia and Italy last year. And Beno Udrih fits in. In fact, telling us before the game, Greg Popovich, he says Beno Udrih is a better pure point guard than Tony Parker.
Without a doubt.
Not a better player, but a pure point guard.
He said he understands the position better than Tony Parker.
That's why he's keeping him on the bench so he can learn it, too, in the playoffs. You guys got to be kidding me.
Final seconds, 75-52, 23-point game. Rittenauer driving in, scores. So it's 21-point game. At one time, the Spurs led by 30. This will be the last shot, and knocked away. And
oh, goodness. Giacomo.
Wow. Wow. And I have to say, you like Giacomo before the Derby.
Yeah, I got to say, you know, got lucky. But is Nick Collison staying in here?
Collison.
Good.
Wow, Nick Collison with a big 3. Tonight, Phoenix and Dallas get underway. In Phoenix, game 1 of the best of 7. Dallas had to go 7 to win that one. Phoenix easily beat Memphis.
Well, this is going to be a heck of a series, I believe, before it's all said and done. You know, we know that Seattle's going to come back from this game and play a lot better than they have tonight. And I'm looking for them to dig out a game or two, but that Phoenix-Dallas series is going to be something else.
No question about it. Nick Collison, who hit that incredible 3 at the final shot. Luke Rittenauer, offensive rebound by Collison. Collison fighting, and Ginobili picks it up. So it's Ginobili. Duncan is in there. Brent Barry, Bruce Bowen, and Beno Udrih. Collison fronting Duncan down to the post. Plenty of time on the shot clock. Ginobili against Rittenauer. Udrih. No one picked him up, and he throws it away. So another turnover, and Seattle down by 18 points to the dismay of Greg Popovich early in the 4th.
Davy Jones has got to be ready to shoot that ball.
This is what Greg Popovich, he's going crazy over there right now.
And a turnover. Yep, turnover. Collison lost it. The Spurs shooting 51% from the field. Seattle 40% from the field. Leading scores, Rashard Lewis has 11 to top Seattle. Tony Parker with 25, Tim Duncan 17. The only player in double figures for the Spurs.
So I'm sorry, you're trying to be precise right now, Dick, because you don't want to see the lead slip away, and you almost try too hard. The pressure turns and goes back to you when the score gets like this.
Antonio Daniels uses a screen from Collison. Pick and roll, perfectly done. And now Seattle has moved to 75-59 with plenty of time.
That was a terrific pass by Antonio Daniels. A very heady play to use the pick and roll, and a nice finish by Collison.
So the Sonics have made up 14 points on the Spurs, but look at that gritty layup by Ginobili.
Guys are whirling dervish.
First field goal for the Spurs in nearly 5.5 minutes, dating back to the third quarter. Here's Rashard Lewis knocking it in. 13 for Lewis, who got off to a slow start.
And this is the thing the Spurs can't let happen. Even if offensively they're not going as well, because they had enough points, but they better be cautious right now. Defensively is where they've got to really tighten up down the other end on Seattle.
And Rashard Lewis committing the personal foul. The Spurs wanted goaltending.
And Rashard Lewis has got to do this more. He's got a significant size and strength advantage against Bruce Bowen, against Brent Barry. He's got to put his head down, get to the basket. He's got to get to the free throw line.
Well, particularly right now, he's got to show attitude, because the attitude is out of the game in Ray Allen. He's the guy that they would have depended on to come out and show the kind of confidence and the attitude and the grit to try to help them get back into this thing.
See, I think the Sonics can build on something if they come back and make it close, saying, look, we did it without Ray Allen. So now we'll have Ray, if he is healthy. We don't know for a fact that he's going to play in the next game. But if he is, they have something to build on instead of having their tail between their legs.
I agree with you, Dick. You know, like you said, these guys are pros. They're putting tying their shoes before the game and going out here, and they've got a lot of pride. You've got to have a lot of pride to get to this level. And Seattle's got nothing to lose right now. They just got to go out and continue to grind away at it.
Tim Duncan 7 of 7 from the line, but has only 1 point here in the second half. We are in the fourth quarter, and down low is Rashard Lewis, double team. And the shot missed outside by Damian Wilkins. Not helping the Sonics at all. They are not hitting their perimeter shots tonight. Brent Barry for three. And Brent Barry now 2 of 3 from three-point range and a 20-point lead.
Boy, that excited the crowd again. It got to be a little flat in here. Everybody was complacent. But in the same token now, they seem to be getting a little fired up because Seattle scared them a little bit.
And a great feed from Collison. Inside to Antonio Daniels. And the foul is against Bruce Bowen. 4 on Bowen. And Antonio Daniels will go to the line. Daniels was traded from the San Antonio Spurs after spending 4 years, including a championship season, to the Portland Trailblazers in a 5-player deal, including Steve Kerr, who came to the Spurs. Kerr, who is now on the TNT roster. Boy, we've had them all, haven't we? All the greats.
Steve,
coaches and players.
All the shooters.
Steve's a guy he's got himself a handful of championships as well. A guy that was an integral part of a few very, very good teams.
When they've been handing out the rings, he's been around.
Right.
Under 9 minutes to go. Glenn Robinson. Reach-in foul. And it will be on Luke Ridnour. So to recap, the Sonics' problems, besides poor shooting and non-aggressiveness, injuries. Vladimir Radmanovic, Ray Allen, Rashard Lewis. What it's like to have that championship fiber. The Pistons have it, and so do the Spurs, who won 2 world titles in '99 and in '03. And when you're playing the first and the semifinals, and even when you get to the conference finals, that really carries a lot of currency.
Well, it does, and you know, I'm with Charles. I heard Charles say last night, I wish they would just stop showing that brawl night after night after night with the Indiana and Detroit. You know, yes,
we don't want to promote a series.
We all know about it. We all know about it. Those players are not thinking about that, and I wish we would all stop showing that thing.
And you know what? The fans are tired of it too, and they're going to play basketball. Should be good. Courageous team, the Indiana Pacers. Rashard Lewis out of bounds, last touch by the Spurs. Considering all the injuries and illnesses that this team has had this year, Rick Carlisle's team winning by 27, the biggest loss the Celtics ever suffered in Game 7.
Yeah, but you know, I'm sick of hearing that too, because I'm gonna tell you something. They are well now, and they're capable of playing. And everybody talks about them like they're a bunch of invalids coming out on the court right now. That Indiana Pacers team is a good ball club. And I'm sure Larry Brown is telling his team that right now. Let's forget about all that past stuff that has happened.
You're right.
Luke Rittenauer way off the mark for three. Robinson getting the rebound. And, you know, right, they've got the closest thing to a full roster right now, John. I mean, of course, Ron Artest out for the year, but other than Artest, this team now is together. No question about it.
Absolutely.
9 on the clock, the double team on Duncan, and the reach-in foul. Will they call it on Lewis or Collison? And the foul will be against Collison. Big three-pointer by Collison at the end of the third quarter. Off of the deflection on Beno Udrih, giving the Sonics a burst, and it's a 19-point game. And against any other team, I think, than a team like the Spurs, you'd say, well, you know, you still have enough time to get it done.
Yeah, they're just so solid defensively. They run their stuff, and they take time off the shot clock offensively. But you said it right. Nick Collison is a guy. He's a 4-year college player. Stayed in school 4 years. He's a very fundamental player.
And gritty. He's very gritty.
Very gritty and very heady, very cerebral player. But he's got his hands full down there with Tim Duncan, arguably, you know, the best player in the world.
Well, you might have more worries if Ray Allen were in the game right now, because we've seen what he can do even when he's behind, but they don't have a guy that they can give the ball to at the end of a set who can create on his own, and you need that kind of guy, particularly when you're in this kind of position.
Tim Duncan 8 out of 9 from the free throw line and 20 points. Parker with 25 tops the Spurs. Rashard Lewis has 13 and Antonio Daniels 11 off the bench. Ray Allen had 8 points in 13 minutes before he got hurt. Vladimir Radmanovic also injured. Daniels hitting the jumper. Daniels, a very impressive player and a good man to have as a backup.
He sure is, and he's really worked on his game. A guy that came in and he could have taken shortcuts and easy ways out. He's worked on his game and become a very, very good NBA basketball player.
The turnover, very heady as well. Not going up to challenge Brent Barry on that fast break. And here is Wilkins, the rookie, and the offensive foul called against Damian Wilkins.
You know, I think when this game started, Tony Parker set the tone by jumping on Luke. But you can see Luke Rittenhauer's talent. That pass he just threw to Daniels, that was not an easy pass to throw.
You see the Spurs stepping in and taking charge. Well, the big dog is taking charges. I thought I'd never see the day. But you said it right, Coach. You know, Luke Rittenauer is a terrific player. He's a clever player and a gym rat, too. He's going to bounce back from this.
Here is Duncan driving in and fouling. Getting fouled. And Brent Barry started the game at shooting guard for the Spurs. Once again, there was some question as to whether Manu Ginobili might get back. Barry scored 11 points, and Ginobili has 10 off the bench. This foul is on Rashard Lewis, and that'll be 3 on Lewis. Duncan once again going to the line, but Tony Parker, you mentioned him, John, 11 points in the first quarter, really set the tone for the Spurs team.
Well, his aggressiveness, he came out and really attacked Luke Rittenauer, went to the basket on him very aggressively, and then it became contagious with the rest of the Spurs. Everybody started to go to the basket, whereas Seattle were taking that outside shot and weren't making that shot. If I were the Spurs, though, I would be worried after this game. Definitely so, because it doesn't count but one victory. You talk about a team like Seattle that all they want is one victory here, and they go home and they have won this series.
And like you know, Coach, it's awfully hard to come back if you're the Spurs after winning a game like this, because for the next 2 days in between these games, the Seattle Supersonics are going to be, you know, living in the film room and going through basketball hell. Well, and you just can't replicate that if you're the San Antonio Spurs.
Well, and I misspoke to say a series, but they came here to get a split. If they got 2, they were great. So they're going to play again on Tuesday.
Rashard Lewis at one end and Robinson with the basket and the foul. And, of course, they'll show up. That doesn't mean they'll win on Tuesday. And even if they lose, you know, the Spurs just hold the old service line, and it's 2-0, and they got 2 games at home.
That's right. You see deflection here, and Glenn Robinson with a great feed from Ginobili. And look at Glenn. I mean, he's showing a lot of stuff. He's showing he's still got some basketball left in that body. I know that.
I don't think the Spurs would have picked him up because they could be choosy in that position. Collison with the foul, his 5th of the game. 89-67. 6.5 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. Dick Stockton, Rex Chapman, the coach John Thompson, Charles Davis with us as well. Game 1 best of 7. Lewis with a good move. That's the kind of athleticism that this man possesses.
But it's also what we were looking for earlier in the game, and particularly when he sensed the fact that 2 of his primary scorers had gone out of the game. We were looking for him to get the ball and try to be more creative and aggressive.
And here's Duncan going up, tries to bank it in, or force Collison to foul out.
For me, the question now becomes, how much longer are we going to see Tim Duncan? I'll be very surprised if Tim Duncan is still in the ball game at the 5-minute mark. We're at 5:56, and I've got to think Greg Popovich is going to get his big man out pretty soon.
He's played 29 minutes, and of course,
teamwork at its essence in the NBA, and that's pick and roll basketball. You got the trailer Nick Collison coming down, and he's going to set a screen right here for his man. The point guard is going to come over the top, and Nick Collison dives straight to the bucket and receive the pass. The screen, the pass, and the finish.
Textbook.
Teamwork at its essence.
Hey, you guys are going to be very upset. Tim Duncan is still in the game.
Well, he won't be past. All right, I'm going to say 4:45 right now. I'm going to get him out. Got to get him out.
Vitaly Potemkin has checked into the game, and the jumper by Rashard Lewis. Lewis ends up after a very tough 2-for-9 start, 19 points, shooting just under 50% for the game. And it's an 18-point lead for the Spurs. That's what Glenn Robinson does best, that middle jump shot.
You're exactly right. A great mid-range jump shooter, and if they got nothing else out of this game, the San Antonio Spurs, they've got Glenn Robinson with a little rhythm and some confidence, and that could come back to bode well for them.
12 points in 11 minutes for Robinson as Potemkin comes back with the field goal.
Well, not only do you have Duncan in the game, you have Ginobili in, and you also have Tony Parker in the game at the same time.
Parker foul will go to the line, and it looked like Potemkin had gotten him on the head.
Yeah, and they're going to call flagrant foul there. Potemkin with an ill-advised flagrant foul, and without a doubt a good call, and Derek Stafford stepping up right away and seeing it. And you see Tony Parker come off, and you can't do this. There's no place in the game for that. You want to foul a guy, foul him, but do not maliciously try to hit a man.
See, and that's the danger right now. When the game is this way, the team that's being beaten is very frustrated. The team that is winning is usually somewhat lax and get careful, and that's why you want to be very certain that guys don't get hurt. But I can understand Pop, because this thing got very sloppy. Had it gotten very close, you would have seen the whole psychological tone in this game change.
Hey, guess what? Tim Duncan's going to finally sit down. 30 minutes, 22 points, 9 rebounds, 50% shooting from the field, 4 blocks tonight, hitting 10 of 11 from the line.
No one ever said that Popovich was a fool. Tony Parker was the one who received the flagrant foul, and he took Timmy out.
Yep. That was a flagrant one on Potemkin. Jastarevic replacing him. Tip ball. Glenn Robinson once again like a machine.
He is like a machine, Dick. He has got a beautiful, beautiful jump shot.
22-point lead for the Spurs. Daniels to Potemkin with the short hook. And Robinson getting the rebound. Glenn Robinson with 14 points on 5 for 7 shooting, 5 rebounds. This is one of the best games he's played in a Spurs uniform.
And I like what Greg Popovich did. He left Tim Duncan in. He's still trying to, we got to remember, he's still trying to get back from an ankle injury. And the more minutes that he can get in game-type situations, the better off he's going to be. So he got a good base under him tonight.
Charles, you got more on Big Dog.
Yeah, and so many people have talked about him in the league and how his value has diminished, and have questioned actually his heart and his work ethic at times. But Glenn Robinson, since he's been in San Antonio, has obviously worked hard, and said his role model has been Steve Kerr. He said he always admired his professionalism and how he kept himself ready for key situations, and that's what he's tried to do here in San Antonio.
A lot of praise for Steve Kerr, and he's not even in the building.
No, there is a lot of praise, and there should be. Yes. And Glenn Robinson has shown something by coming here. You know, we were talking, I was speaking with Danny Ferry in the tunnel, director of basketball operations for the Spurs earlier. And, you know, if you can play for Greg Popovich, if you can play for Jerry Sloan, if you can play for, you could be Pat Riley, you can play in this league. And Glenn Robinson has shown he can play and fill a role, not as just a scorer.
But you're not going to be a selfish player, otherwise you won't play for all of the guys you mentioned, and there are a lot of those who think they're stars and they forget about winning. Damian Wilkins with the basket and the foul, and you know, sooner or later, it's amazing, John, in this league, they're players, they want to be, it's me basketball, and then all of a sudden as they get toward the end, they say, you know what, I'd love to play on a championship.
Right, exactly. You know, because really it's maturity as much as anything, because guys didn't have a sense of feeling the significance of accomplishing something together. You know, I'm a big fan of Glenn Robinson, but I don't think he's increasing his value one bit in this ball game. I'm going to tell you that right now. You know, it has to be in a lot more of a competitive situation than this. But I think it is good for him to play in this game if he hadn't been playing a lot.
Wilkins slapping Robinson for the foul. The Seattle Sonics in the last regular season meeting with the Spurs scored only 76 points. They were beaten here 89-76. Tim Duncan didn't play in the game, neither did Rashard Lewis, out with a foot contusion. And they're going to surpass 76 tonight, not by much, for a team that averaged close to 100 during the regular year.
Well, the difficulty here is going to be with Pop, I think, because he's going to have a difficult time convincing his guys that you better be careful. Seattle is capable of beating them, and they are. You know, you couldn't prove it by this game, but his guys are going to be looking out at the concession stand, looking out at the clock, trying to get out of the gym when he tells them that. He knows that as well as any of us right now.
Approaching 3 minutes to go in the game. And there is Flip Murray going up and fouled on the play. Phoenix and Dallas, which will follow tomorrow night's game between the Pacers and the Pistons. And we got a chance to look at the Phoenix Suns, and you wonder whether that style can win a title, and who says they can't?
Well, who says they can't? And Mike D'Antoni has done a terrific job with that team all season long. Committed very early in the season to playing Sean Marion at the power forward spot, which took a lot of courage. The team bought into it, but Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavs have been a great story this year. And you talk about drama on TNT. We've got some drama with Steve Nash playing his old mates in Dallas.
What do you guys think of that series?
Well, I definitely think Dallas is a tougher team now. You know what I mean? Tougher meaning mentally tougher. Offensively, they've always been tough, but I definitely like what I'm seeing from them. I think it's going to be an interesting series. Phoenix is extremely hard to figure out because of the style of play that they have.
Parker with a 2. So Tony Parker now with 29 points. And I also wonder, considering the styles of play, you know, Phoenix had a chance to rest, and Dallas got to be a little tired after the Houston series.
Well, you know, I know that Phoenix was very welcome to rest quite a bit because they had some guys that were banged up. Sean Marion took a hard fall in the Memphis series, and they needed some time to get some rest. But, you know, every now and then, these guys are used to playing. Their bodies are used to playing day in and day out, and having a long time to rest late in the season can sometimes be difficult.
Yeah, you could be a little, you know, a little rusty when you get back. Anyway, Murray gets the last field goal.
I'd like to say Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers.
Yes.
I would too. To my mother, to my children's mother.
And I would like to say to my wife, Leslie.
You know, guys, we were talking over the break, and I believe this is, for all of you people out there that believe this is not going to be a series, this is going to be a heck of a ball game Tuesday night, because unless you've actually sat in a film session as a professional athlete, these Seattle Supersonics are in for it the next 2 days.
Well, let's put it this way. It better be. Otherwise, San Antonio will make quick work of the Sonics. And I'm not saying necessarily to win game 2. Hard enough to win in this building, although the Sonics have done it. But at least put up the big battle and hope Allen is back. Because, you know, even if they win 2, they still have 2 games coming up in Seattle, and then they have a chance to come back. Murray missing a 3. 5 players in double figures for the San Antonio Spurs tonight. Tony Parker 1 point away from his playoff career high. He will not get it. He's on the bench. Devin Brown getting a chance. Tony Massenberg. Brown injured with a bad back toward the end of the year.
And I tell you what, I would hate to go to practice if I were the Spurs. Because I think right now they're praising themselves enough. And nothing Pop can do but get angry at him now. He's got to beat him up a little bit so that they're not too cocky, because they're going to come in here thinking that they're going to just continue the game like it is now.
It won't be fun.
No, and like you said, Coach, earlier, all Seattle has to do is win the game on Tuesday. If they win the game, we're not talking about this game. We're just talking about how Seattle stole home court advantage.
Well, it's interesting how that works, because the Spurs got a wake-up call when Denver beat them in game 1. And now, they've now won 5 playoff games in a row. So they got a little momentum going. But all of a sudden, hey, you don't win that second game, and now you got some concerns going into the 2 games coming up in Seattle. And the Sonics trying to make it happen. Spinning in is Beno Udrih with the basket. Tony Parker with 29, Duncan with 22, and Rashard Lewis with 19, and that'll do it as the San Antonio Spurs have taken a decisive 1-0 lead over the Seattle Sonics, but it is only 1-0 with a 103-81 victory over Seattle. And there you see the Sonics gathering at midcourt, and they had to play without Ray Allen, who went out after 13 minutes of the second quarter.